What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Monster Bass channel. Today we're going to be talking about tips and tricks for bank fishing in the fall. If it's your first time here on the Monster Bass channel, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell as well. And if you have not been over to my channel, Fishing Grubs, I would really appreciate it if you head on over there and subscribe there as well. We put out a ton of different content from saltwater to freshwater, largemouth bass, multi-species stuff constantly. So, without any further ado, let's get on into the video today. First of all, we're going to talk about where we like to do bank fishing. So I've been lucky enough to get permission from a few golf courses to go and fish the golf courses. Now, during the fall, being a bank fisherman, because my kayak has been taken away for so long because of car issues, and we're not going to get into that, but I've been bank fishing for quite some time. When I first got into fishing, I was bank fishing, and in the fall, when the transition happened, that is what actually drove me to YouTube in the first place, was looking up a video on how to catch bass in the fall, because things have changed. So talking about where to fish, I like to be able to go to places that I can walk all around, you know? So I'll look for ponds that have a lot of ground I can cover, because I like to move around. I'm not the type of fisherman that wants to stand in one spot all day. Now, there are those type of places out there. There was a place where I first got into fishing, and it was a rocky point that just seemed to always hold fish. And if I stayed there for long enough and kept going, I would catch a bunch of fish. Obviously, when I got a little boat and was able to get around this whole entire pond, I was having luck everywhere in this place because it is loaded. But, you know, the rocky point where I got, you know, bites every time I went there, you know, if you can find a place like that, that's great too. You don't have to move around much because the fish will come to you if you're in an area where they are going to come and feed constantly. So if you can get permission to go to a golf course, if you live in Texas and every pond around is basically just all bank access, that's a huge thing for me to find out where I want to go. Also a huge thing is, like, what do I want to use? Do I want to use a frog? So should I go somewhere that has a ton of slop and a ton of lily pads and stuff like that? Or do I want to use stuff like crankbaits, spinnerbaits, or anything, you know, with treble hooks? So I want to go somewhere, you know, a little less weedy. That all kind of comes into play when I'm trying to decide what I'm doing and where I'm going to go and fish. So when I'm bank fishing, I like to keep the gear to a minimal. Lately, it's been a Topwater frog rod with 65-pound braid on it that I can easily convert into some sort of creature bait rig where I can, you know, throw a bullet weight on there, some 20-pound test fluorocarbon leader, you know, a little bullet weight, and some sort of creature bait so I can get down to the bottom. That setup, for me, has been my Fox River Rods heavy fast rod with my Daiwa Tatula SV, and this thing has been fan-freaking-tastic because I've been able to use this anywhere from, you know, frog fishing to the creature baits that I like to throw with the greatest of ease. This thing is perfect for flipping, pitching, and frogging, and that's really why I want this. The other thing I like to have with me is something, you know, some sort of spinning combo. Lately for me, since I've been doing a lot of multi-species angling, I've actually been using my really light setup. Now, it is not like a full-on ultralight, but I do have 6-pound test on this thing, and you know, you gotta finesse the fish. This is my finesse setup. Now, sometimes I go with a little bit heavier duty of a rod if I'm gonna be throwing, you know, wacky rig, some bigger Ned rigs, and stuff like that. But this thing can do it all. Now, I love it for drop shot and Ned rig, and I don't know if you guys watch Burley or if you've watched me before, I love to do a Ned rig as my drop shot weight. So because Monster Bass just came out with these beautiful weedless Ned rigs, this is going to be perfect. So I'm going to pair this up with, you know, something like the coontail here or the Ned Ocho that came in this month's box. And then on the drop shot, I might put, again, maybe these coontails or perhaps these little paddle tail swim baits. I actually really enjoy small paddle tail swim baits as a drop shot bait. I also want to quickly talk about my backpack. Now, your backpack selection is key when you're bank fishing, and the reason why this is one of my favorite bank fishing backpacks is because it has not one but two rod holders in it. This is the Samurai Tactical backpack. I actually work with Samurai Tactical as well. These fishing backpacks, there's other brands out there as well. If they have rod holders, if you can keep the rod you're not using or the two rods you're not using behind you but locked in, it makes for a much smoother bank fishing, especially when you're like me and you want to be on the move. You know, if I'm going to just one spot and, you know, I'm not really moving, I could bring more rods and I'm just going to be there all day. That's fine. But I don't really do that. I'm more on the move when I'm bank fishing. I want to cover a ton of ground. So I like to have my rods behind me locked in so I'm not like putting stuff down, picking it up, putting it down, picking it up. That's obnoxious. So it's super convenient to have a backpack that you can store your rods on as you're going bank fishing. One of the other big tips that I like to give you about bank fishing. One, you always want to go directly in front of you first. Fan cast right there in front of you, because if you take a long bombing cast and you actually catch a fish, as you're bringing that fish in, you're causing commotion towards you, and there could possibly be a fish there that you missed because you spooked it reeling the other fish in, and when you could have ended up catching both of them. So when I come up on a spot bank fishing, I'm going to fish right on the bank first and then fan cast out. Another thing is I love to fish parallel with the bank. When I'm in a boat, I cast at the bank and work back to the boat. When I'm at the bank, you know, I don't just cast straight out and work back to me. I'll cast to the left and to the right along the bank, because a lot of the times when I get bit when I'm fishing in a boat, I get bit right on the bank. So it's nice to work your lures parallel to the bank, and of course a lot of fan casting and working from all different directions. Another thing, when you're choosing your fishing backpack, it is nice to be able to carry water with you. This fishing bag here has a spot. This bag here has a spot for a camel pack and a spot to, you know, put your line out and hook up right there. So, you know, if you are going to be doing a lot of walking around, it is nice to stay hydrated. So you can think about that too, whether it be, you know, somewhere to put your water bottle or somewhere just to put a camelback. Let's get into some of the lures that I absolutely love during the fall. As you all know, my all-time favorite way to fish is topwater. So whether it be big swim baits at night in the fall or big frogs during the daytime, like the fat bastard frogs that have been coming in the boxes. This one is brand new to me. I'm really pumped about this color. It looks awesome. This one definitely catches fish. We've got fish on it. Frog fishing in the slop from the bank is so much fun, and if I have enough room, I'll even use poppers like the new MONSTERBASS Mad Max, you know, around heavy cover, stuff like that. Obviously not in the slop due to the treble hooks, but you know, topwater for me during the fall is the way to go until the water temperature just gets too cold for them. And even on those days where the water temperature is too cold and I'm not getting any topwater bites during the day, when I go at night and throw big swim baits, I will still get those topwater bites. So consider that. I can't even tell you the lowest water temperature I've gone out and caught topwater fish in, but it is extremely low. Probably in the upper 40s, maybe even lower 40s. I'll have to talk to Chris. He keeps track of all that stuff. Anyways, topwater is my number one. Always has been, always will be. But if they're not biting that, you got to go to the next thing. And the next thing in the fall for me is going to be moving baits. So whether you're using something like the new Seeker crankbait that we have from Monster Bass, which is sick, or the Alex Rudd Monster Bass crankbait. I love that, but I think my all-time favorite moving bait in the fall has to be a spinnerbait, especially up here in the Northeast. The spinnerbait just gets chewed in the fall. I always try and have a stinger hook on there. Always have a trailer hook. You gotta do it. They short strike these things all the time. You can also put a little paddle tail on here as well, and then put the stinger hook up on top of that, so you can have a little more action if that's what you like. But that right there is an insane fall setup. As the winds pick up, going to a spinnerbait, going to that moving bait on those crazy windy days, going to a crankbait on those crazy windy days when there's less weeds, it is the way to go, because bass are feeding heavily to get ready for the winter time, the harsh winter that we have here in the Northeast. So after that, and as the water temperature really starts to, cool off, I'm going to be using bottom baits, Ned rigs and creature baits, guys. That's kind of my go-to thing. And with the Ned rig, again, I'm going to use a drop shot too, and I'm going to see, what the fish want, because if the fish want something a little bit higher up in the water column, maybe I'll switch to something moving that gets a little bit deeper. But if the fish keep hitting the Ned rig, I'm going to either use the Ned rig, and if I'm just catching small fish, I might bump up to a bigger creature bait to increase the size of the fish that I'm catching. But dragging those creature baits and dragging those Ned rigs on the bottom as the water temps cool off is the way to go to get more numbers in the boat, guys. And like I said before, using these weedless Ned rigs, this is going to be great. You're going to get hung up less. Even when you're fishing rocky structures, I would use these, because they're engineered perfectly to keep you out of hooking into things that you don't want to be hooking into on the bottom, keeping you weedless, and hopefully hooking you up with more fish. So ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you today. Thank you for tuning into the Monster Bass channel. If you have any questions on fall fishing, please leave them in the description below. If you have any questions on bank fishing as well, leave them down below. I will be checking in on this video. If you have any questions for me, I will comment back for you. And as always, the Monster Bass team will be answering your questions as well. Thank you all very much. If you learned a little something today, again, please do us a favor, hit that subscribe button and hit that bell as well, so you're notified when we're dropping videos. And also, if you wanted to do me a solid, you can head on over to my channel. It will be linked down below, and hit that subscribe button there as well for me. Thanks again for tuning in, and fish on!